So I guess we can start. Welcome to my talk about Tech Lead Elevator, real stories and hard lessons. So this is a very personal talk that stems from my experience, like about 20 years of the professional IT experience. And the crucial, the crucial lessons that I learned throughout my career and were usually the hardest one and the most painful. And I would like to share them with you because it can help you to elevate your game to become a tech lead or just much quicker to adopt a seniority mindset. A few words about myself. I'm Marek Dominiak and I run training in event storming, DDD, TDD, and so on. And I have, give or take, 20 years of professional experience, plus playing computer programming on a Commodore 64 before that. I'm co-owner and instructor on Trainee Tech and the hands-on architect and team lead at Mintra, where we build big e-learning platforms for like bigger corporations and competence management systems. So few admins can make life of their company and competency management much easier for them. All right, and now, we should figure it out first and ask ourselves, what does it really mean to be a senior developer or a tech lead? Because there are some crucial features of those, and it's very easy to have, it's very hard to miss them between jumping on implementation of one task and another one. And I can sum it up with some stories, and the first story is about my first code review. So are you doing code reviews at your places? Probably everyone. But however, the year was 2008. So no one heard about code reviews back then, but we've introduced them at some point. We had a 30 people team and we had a fresh and a new Java 6. So if I would live in parallel world in .NET, it would be .NET Framework 3.5. However, it was very shiny at that moment, okay? We have Java server faces, which was essentially the same as ASP web forms, okay? And we have JavaScript, not TypeScript, it was JavaScript, okay? And some frameworks like Hibernate or similar link. And we had to support Internet Explorer 6. Have you ever had to support something related to Internet Explorer 6? Are you old enough? There are a few people. Did you enjoy that? Oh, no hands, no hands. That's the experience. And there was a bug. There was a bug reported in JavaScript function on a page. Just page didn't work, obviously only in Internet Explorer 6. And I was the youngest in the team, so obviously I've got assigned to this. However, I found a solution applied by a senior developer on another page, and it solved exactly similar thing. So what I did, I took and applied this code and applied very known solution. You can guess it. Copy-paste design pattern. Have you heard about this? You used it all. Everyone knows about this. And I was confident in the quick fix. I tested everything manually. I was really happy with this. And the most happy because I didn't have to work with Internet Explorer and JavaScript. And I could move to backend and fun stuff again. However, there was a review. And company introduced post-factum code reviews. It's not the reviews that prevents you to check in a bad code, but those were post-factum where the code was already copied and committed into the main branch. And obviously, this is how we perceived code reviews a very long period of time ago. Now we try to restrict ourselves from being a bit too negative. And the main architect, tech lead, reviewed my code, and the solution was okay-ish, but prone to future errors because I violated don't repeat yourself rule on a small code base, okay? But I got defensive because my code, my emotions, I don't want no one to talk bad things about my code. So what I did, I pointed at the original author, but Peter implemented this function on another page, so I just took it. So we should share the responsibility, if something's wrong. But and the architect just smiled, And I thought I defended myself quite well, and I was really happy about that. And I thought maybe I will get a rise and so on. Review has ended, and the very next day, I've got a verdict. And I've got an email with evaluation, and it was 2 out of 5. And I was really shocked. I was actually angry and furious, okay? And I didn't understand what was why was it such a bad thing. And after I picked my jaw and gathered myself enough courage to go to the architect and ask him about this the very next day. Fortunately, I got some sleep between this meeting. And architect explained me this. So you need to take responsibility for your code. The code you create, but the more important, the code you copied. And obviously, we will talk about AI quite soon, okay? But even if you copied it, now it's yours. You own it. Just take it, and you need to be responsible for it. And this had to sink in my head for quite a few moments, like a few hours, but then I completely agreed. Like, this is mine. I want to be responsible for my creations, whatever the solution was, okay? And I adopted this mindset, and it helped me in a variety of ways. So first of all, like, this is the very key, one and very key characteristic of senior developers and tech leads, that they take responsibility for the team, for the solution, for the communication, for everything, okay? But it improved the quality and productivity of my work, and I was much happier about this. One more thing that you won't immediately see, but others start to put trust. The other parts of the company will put more trust into will see you more valuable. So it will help you to grow in the company. So finally, when the company will start to cut people, you will be less likely to be cut. That's kind of on the contrary version. So the more valuable you are for the company, the better it is. But it comes with the responsibility, like a Spider-Man quote, yes? And very important thing, you're not your code, you're not your solutions. Keep emotions away. Do emotions help you with writing code? I don't think so, you know? They get into logical thinking and thinking about properly and logically. And obviously, now, if you are, everyone who uses AI, I guess, more than half of the people, I guess, if you generated some code with AI, you own it. If you apply it to your solutions, if you check into your main branch, you own it. And I like to put like illustration on this. You just take a little bit of blood and sign with your blood that the code you copied, now it's yours when it's getting checked into the main branch. And it helps you. So then you feel responsible for whatever solution there is applied, and you will understand it deeply because now you care about this. Does it make sense? So that's the very first crucial part of what it means to be a senior or a tech lead. Now there is a second one, and it will be better explained with a question. And I'm asking you this question. Let's imagine this is a year 2008, 2007, and there were no good Java or .NET libraries that supported time zones calculations. Okay? There were none. Yoda time and other things like that were implemented a few years after. Now, would you invest 2 senior developers' time for 6 months, if you're a tech lead, to implement this support for date-time library with the proper support for time zones? So how many of you would do this? 1 person. How many wouldn't? More. Is there any other answer? Oh, thank you. So it depends. Okay. But it's very easy to say it depends. You know, we all kind of like, I guess whenever we answer with this, we give an answer like that to our, product development or business side of things, they roll their eyes, obviously. But the crucial point about seniority is that we can start to explain what it depends on and provide those simulations. So let's consider 2 scenarios. Now, we are building a web shop, And we can add a few books to the shopping cart, press add to cart, pay, and so on. But UX designer somehow sneaked in, found a new component in their library and wanted to add like a clock with the specific time of the time zone someone bought the book from, like whether it's New York or Oslo or something like that. And now it has been sneaked into the backlog. Have you ever seen any unwanted feature sneaked in by a UX designer? Like only a few people? I don't get this. I think there are people that are too, let's say, too tired to raise their hand. So it happens. But in this case, would we invest two senior developers for 6 months? It's absolutely ridiculous to do that. But what about this? You're responsible for scheduling that, writing a system that schedules and calculates a proper receival time of those cargo shipments. And let's say you need to go from Stavanger to Singapore, spanning across some around time zones. Will you invest two senior developers for 6 months to calculate that this one of those beauties with few billions of dollars won't miss their spot in harbor? And you won't pay any damages and insurance claims? I guess 2 senior developers is too little. So it really depends. Context is the king. So coming back, what seniority is, the key characteristic is that senior starts to answer the question, it depends, but they obviously have to provide of what it depends on. They start to have those simulations and run them. They can explain potential scenarios from different contexts. This is one of the crucial parts that allows to figure it out and orient yourself in the IT software development field across multiple departments. And I like to look at this small diagram. It's from Design It book. I just adjusted it a bit. And there are 4 crucial parts when it comes to about seniority. So first of all, tech leads should lead, okay? They need to lead by example. They need to lead and the seniors as well. They should lead their fellow developers with all kinds of tasks. Now, they should have some skill and be able to apply it. So you need to be well-versed in technology to be able to do that, okay? And because the technology is not that important if we can't apply it to business. So that's very important that we are being this glue between business and technology. And software architects as well have even more to consider. And you need to have impact. And having impact can be illustrated with this. If you have a person in your company that produces only documents, let's say architects of all day, that produce some documents, 20 pages long on a Confluence, and then they shove it to the implementation team and they say it's not possible to implement the way we want. Does this person really have impact on things going on? They can't shape what's being implemented. They can't shape or help the company to go further, to grow, okay? So 3 characteristics. Now, we will talk a little bit about business and communication. There will be 3 stories, and each of them a little bit more painful and had more lessons than the other. And the app. So year was 2014, and we had a team of 4 developers, and we needed to app to serve our content. So it was e-learning content with running some specific server on the devices, mobile phones and tablets. And we had to, someone chose for us that we needed to implement this in Cordova or PhoneGap. Have you heard about the Cordova or PhoneGap? Did you play with this or like that? Maybe less hands. So at some point at the beginning in theory, it looked very nice, but later on it was hell to manage dependencies and so on. So it was really kind of hard for us. We needed support for Android, iPhone, and possibly Windows Phone. And we needed to use OAuth 2, which was new back then. And we had backend in equivalent Word. It would be pretty new back then. Backend was actually easy stuff, backend on the server side, okay? But we've got some challenges, really big challenges. We needed to encrypt content on devices, which was kind of harder than it currently is, okay? Downloading with recently dropped, needed to be fast on all platforms. We needed to implement HTTP server for both Android and iPhone because there weren't plugins in Cordova for this. We added some more plugins because they were missing. Maybe they existed in an iPhone version, but they didn't exist in Android, so we needed to implement. OAuth was more complex than basic auth, so we spent some time on that as well. And there was actually, some of those were artificial requirements, okay? And we've got some results. We really worked hard for a number of months, and we delivered this, and we were happy with this. However, the app wasn't that used very often because back then the mobile devices weren't as used as today, and none big corporations wanted to use tablets to run their courses. They were still sitting by the computers. So we've got some difficulty with maintaining the app. So anyone have ever heard about JavaScript maintenance issues? Not TypeScript, no? Have you ever, if you leave your project for 2 years without updating anything, will it be easy to make it work again? Not necessarily. I see many people shaking hands. And we've got some unnecessary complexity to having those weird requirements. Some of those requirements were artificial. And project only after 2.5 was really hard to maintain. It looked like this zombie. And we felt like it was a wasted effort. It wasn't really fun, okay? And there were a few attempts to revive the app, but because of the complexity with dependency hell in Cordova plugin management, we failed to do that. So it wasn't success. We implemented hard thing, it worked, but we've got so much complexity that we didn't need to have. Fortunately, there was a new hope. In 2022, there was a new team appointed. It was a separate one. And based on the insights from the original app developers and all their APIs, and I'm feeling proud a bit that at least our backend looked identical, which was nice. And we simplified the requirements. We just said, we don't need some of those. It's just the original assumptions were too heavy. We can cut those. And removed some of those requirements, and in just 3 months, application was re-implemented. It was kind of success. Adoption of it is a second story, but the maintenance is much easier now. But what's the lesson learned over here, okay? The lesson learned is that you need to challenge requirements. Saying no is not fun, okay? But by default, that's my stance. When someone approaches me, Marek, we need to implement X, Y, Z this way. Now we need to deliver this next month. I'm saying, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, give me the context. So I start questioning about the context. I would like to see whether requirements are fine, whether assumptions are okay. And only after initial interrogation, maybe I will think about saying yes. But don't be a yes man. And if you were, so you can watch a movie and you can know that it won't be that easy. Saying yes is nice and polite thing to do. However, it's impossible to make everyone happy. It's just impossible. That's not the real word. Question assumptions. Question assumptions. And I like this kind of story from my friend. He mentioned that when we started to ask in his team, the product, why do we need this feature, which is this why. If we have a user story, we always should have why it exists, why someone added to the backlog. What's the point of it? And just when he required this question to be answered when adding those user stories, it looked like 10% of the user stories was deleted from the backlog. So it means that someone spent time on creating 10% of the stories, okay? They weren't created by user needs or product. It was maybe developers. Everyone is guilty here. Have you ever created and added to the backlog something on your own accord because you know what the users would like to have? It's a question you don't have to answer, okay? And how it relates to productivity. Being sure of what is really needed is important. And this is, I can't stress it enough, okay? And you can avoid wasted effort of implementing something that didn't need to be implemented, okay? And I'm sure, like everyone over here, saw cases like this that we spent a lot of time implementing something and it was good, but no one needed it. And saying no is a hard thing to do, especially in Norway. We are all polite, okay? We like to be polite. However, saying no is really is the hard thing to do. But sometimes we need to just hold the horses of the whole business and development. All right, let's move to another one. It will be a report, and this one looked very easy. So I was already. It was a year about 2022. So this is kind of like 3 years ago, and we needed to implement reports in the new module in the system. Okay, and there were a team of 4 developers, which was plenty, and we had to implement like 6 or 7 reports. That didn't look that hard, so I delegated everything to the developers. And backend was shiny, so it would be kind of equivalent of .NET 6 or EF Core as well, okay? And it looked quite straightforward. What can go wrong, okay? But there were some funny challenges. After initial implementation, we've got a feedback. This is not what we want. I guess some of you may have heard this phrase before, okay? And then, so we improved. So there was another Jira ticket add to our ticketing system. Like we need to remove some columns, add some columns, change some reports. Okay, so we improved the initial reports and we've got feedback. Okay, this is not quite what we want. All right, that's something's fishy over here. And those iterations continued, and I thought we are all already done with implementation, but only when I took a look at this after some period of time, it was like 6 or 7 iterations and back and forth with these other departments. And it blew my mind. I had to stop and think, what's going on over here? Why is it so hard? Okay. And I realized that we were playing a telephone game. So have you heard about telephone game? They play, it's kind of a whisper game. So kids in the kindergarten sit like 5 of them next to each other, and one whispers to another ear, banana, okay? And then what do we get after 5 kids? Do we get banana on the other end? Never, okay? And this is only one word. We will get unicorn, Eiffel Tower, never banana, okay? But now let's imagine that we are doing this on a little bit higher level because we have a wall of requirements and text from our business perspective, and now we are playing this game. And I was like a little bit at fault over here as well. So we had a customer, which was our finance department, which was in the bunker. They didn't want to join any calls or have anything in common with development. They were kind of sitting in their own offices, okay? So they talked to expert, our analyst, and then she talked to me, and then I talked to some developer, and what's the chance that we implemented this blue XYZ? Obviously, we've got red ASD, so we haven't implemented what we needed. And why are we continuing this madness? I may think that some of you as well felt this on your own skin, that we had like one-to-one communication, and we were only doing this butterfly effect that we are compounding the error in miscommunication. So what was the idea? We just organized 2 meetings. I organized 2 meetings. I organized and forced everyone, and this was like this hard thing to do. You needed to force other people in other departments to come to you and speak with you, okay, and developers. And everyone was there. In total, we spent maybe 2 hours. We immediately understood what they wanted. We cut some of not needed details. We removed 1 report, and we finished implementation of the reports. By the way, is implementation of reports fun? Never is. We prefer to do some other work. And developers were really happy because they could do some more fun. And PM was happy, and the business side of things, and our finance department as well. And what's the lesson learned over here? So the lesson learned is that bringing people together is crucial because it discovers or helps you discover proper assumptions and requirements and cut unwanted fat. This is what we talked just before. And access to project experts is essential. If you don't have project experts or they sit behind the wall, so either and they don't want to come to you, you need to go to them. You need to bridge the gap of communication. And this is where tech leads as well should speak up those communication problems, as well developers, okay? And possibly use tools like event storming. That's why I teach about this, and there is a link to the talk of Vadim from, I think, TDC last year on this exactly topic. Because event storming brings people together to one place, we can figure it out things much quicker, and then we avoid this broken telephone game, okay? Just don't do this. Doesn't make sense. And how does it lead to better productivity? We get things done quicker, obviously. We avoid miscommunication. Miscommunication is really hard, can sting hard us. And we avoid effort spending on not needed features. There is nothing worse than providing a beautiful code with 100% test coverage and use of design patterns that's never used. Oh, this one was fun. Yeah, I think you might like this one. So there was a bug. This is a story about the bug. And there was a bug in the notification system reported by support. But I implemented the notification system. So I took it to myself. And angry customer missed important notifications. So the claim was that because we haven't sent notifications, someone missed the flight and couldn't go to offshore and there couldn't fix the pipe or whatever. And it was actually a real case, okay? And they were angry, so I felt a little bit, emotional over here. And it led to those consequences. But I thought, what the hell? This is my code, okay? I took it to myself. Clean code, test coverage, almost 100%. I thought about everything in this notification system. I was so proud of it and happy, okay? And then I just couldn't figure it out. I know everything about this, okay? So I got the chase. I got angry, okay? I quickly reviewed the Jira ticket and information, and I was dumbfounded. Looked legit. All right, so again, what went wrong? So I tested locally, and it worked. You know this one. It works on my machine. But it doesn't mean anything. Okay, then I reviewed code and recent code changes. So I checked maybe someone deployed the wrong version to code of the production. No, everything's fine. No one touched this module in a bit at least that could do anything. I wrote a more specific test case as well. It passed. So then everything works fine. I tested the same thing on our staging environment. Everything went fine. Everything works as designed. Why did it happen on production? So I took a break to clear my mind, because we know that we solve most of the IT problems under shower, having a walk, or petting our dog. Then I deep dived. Next day, I went there. Support is nagging and I have no answers, okay? That's not fun. I checked some SQL queries, fine. I checked the errors in logs, everything's fine. I restored the newest database backup, everything's fine. Some hours have passed and I'm feeling like this. All right, there is no harm done, like only important part of our application doesn't work, and this is me, so possibly maybe someone losing his job. But then I took another break to clear my mind. And the very next day, I finally restored an older database backup and found what happened. And that blew my mind a bit. So I discovered the client created notification configuration, but then deleted it. Then the event happened that should lead to notification, but it didn't exist, so nothing was sent. And then they created the identical notification configuration and then claimed that system doesn't work. Fun, isn't it? Okay, so it blew my mind. I was happy. The code was correct. Yeah, that's fine. However, doesn't the behavior of the system was correct, but I lost a lot of time. Okay, I lost a lot of time and effort on it. It was like 16 hours of debugging, going through all possible cases, and then I kind of learned some things. And the big one will be doubt all provided information, zero trust, okay? Have you ever had this Jira ticket that pointed at the wrong direction and you spent quite a lot of fun time investigating and debugging? I think every one of you did, okay? So I have zero trust and doubt assurances from others. And I love this one. So before writing this talk, I found this, like the day before. So last week I drove 2 hours to push the power button on a server that 3 separate people assured me was already on. So what we should do, we should check information in detail, okay? We should verify things. And I solve, before jumping or a high investigation and using my mind to investigate in detail, I first check surroundings. Imagine you're on a minefield. This is like how I view a software IT field. You're on a minefield, and you need to figure it out whether there is a trap set by business, by support, or by someone else for you. And there is 15 minutes spent on reading the ticket and verifying information can save you from 2 days of debugging. It's an old Chinese proverb. Things that can help you, and I introduce them after this case, is that I improved observability, revisions, audit, better logging, or if you can, event sourcing. So we would be able to see that someone set this fun trap on me, okay? And how does it lead to better productivity? Be critical, think, it pays off, okay? So doubt and check, verify. So especially in AI age that we live now, okay? There is I'm more critical thinker than I was before, okay? Don't waste time on non-existing issues. Doesn't make sense. And don't attach emotions to ticket related to your solutions. That was as well a problem that let's say, a mistake I made over there. Because I felt responsible. This was my baby, and someone says that it doesn't work. And I felt defensive. But then it clouded my judgment for a bit of time, okay? So it was much easier for me to spend time on debugging instead of verifying information. All right. There will be one more story about communication, about S3. S3 is something like, I think, Azure files, I guess. And I've got an innocent question from our CTO. Marek, could you tell me why in 2018, when moving our services to AWS from premises, we stayed on Elastic file system storage for quite some time instead of moving to S3 storage immediately? It was 10 times more expensive to be on EFS. All right, so like I started to sweating a bit because there were 3 people working at that time, and it was a few years after, and I didn't remember why did we do that, because on paper it doesn't make sense. And we had like 4 terabytes of media, which kind of add up quite heavily to our AWS bill, all right? So I felt like a little bit sweating when trying to figure it out, but I couldn't remember, okay? So I started archaeological process of gathering information from long email threads, those that can crush your Outlook, Confluence documentation and comments, commits history across some projects, not only one, and different branches, Jira tickets and comments, and coworkers, okay? So after some hours, I think it was like almost the full day, after 6 hours of going and being lost in time and space and Confluence and Jira, finally I successfully recovered the context of the decision and found the answer and sent it, okay? And the answer, if you are wondering, was very simple. The answer was that we were on a clock, deadline we had like 3 months, we were 3 people, where 1 switched jobs, so there were only 2 people, and we had a ton of tasks to do. And we used NFS, which is network file storage, and very intuitive way of moving gradually was moving to EFS and only incrementally changing each document type to S3, which we did. And it took us probably several months to do this. We couldn't do that. However, there is a lesson learned over here. Like, because I lost 6 hours of time on something, if someone asked me in 2018, I would be able to answer immediately, okay? And lesson learned, spend some time on having effective documentation, okay? And good documentation can save you a lot of time. It can help you onboarding, it can help you don't repeat yourself. Architectural decision records as well, I'm pointing to some links in references after the talk at the end of the slides. Architectural decision records are nice to start with. If we would have them, and now we have, if I got this question, I would just point to the decision that we made at some point, and that would be it. 6 hours saved. Writing this architectural decision records doesn't have to be heavy. C4 model is useful for documentation, doesn't have to be heavy. You can start small and introduce additional tools if you want. And obviously, effective documentation helps with onboarding, saves you time answering the same questions. If you are a tech lead or like senior or a developer that starts to be questioned by others, and you are likely to receive the same questions all over and over again, and your answer are very similar. It's don't repeat yourself. You can just save it to frequently asked questions, send the link, okay? And by the way, documentation can be less painful to write with the support of AI tools. And over here, I'm not suggesting that you should just ask AI to write your documentation. No, 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 no. Again, it's like with the code generated. You provided enough context or bad English. I'm not native speaker, so I can't phrase words very nicely, but I can put it into ChatGPT or a tool like that and help me to get rid of like misspelling and so on. And so I provide the context and it just maybe forms it. I confirm it, and then there is obviously a ping pong and iterations. But it's much faster than I would write it by myself, okay? And the good documentation can save you a lot of time in the future. And now we will talk about technology, tools, and impact. There will be some few fun pointers, but first we will talk about real life, and then I will make a very good big analogy to IT. And there is a story about the car. I bought a second-hand car 2.5 years ago. It was a Nissan Note, and the thing is that I really liked the rear camera when I drove. So I was moving between countries and I was on a clock. I needed to buy really quickly this car. And I love to have rear camera because I'm a really bad driver. So I won't hit anyone behind me. That's a very simple thing. It's just I'm a visual person. And it looked like this car had a rear camera, but seller told me that he doesn't know whether it works, so he sells it as it is. So I tried to play with this mirror over there. On this mirror, there are 3 buttons, and there are some cables, and tried to play with this, and it didn't work, okay? But then I didn't have much time. I was really busy with work, life, trainings. I have 2 kids, wife, I organized trainings, runs many projects, so I just forgot about this. But whenever I was in the car, I was missing the rear camera. And I thought about selling the car because that bothered me that much, okay? A year has passed and I needed an annual checkup. So I went to this place and they just put my car, checked it up and so on. And during the checkup, I just asked, maybe you can take a look at this rear camera, maybe it works, okay? The guy found a hidden handle. And it activated, it was always on, it was just like not streaming this to the mirror. So eventually, it got rear camera working, but with 5 other cameras. So there was 360 camera system in this car. They were just well hidden under the mirrors in weird places where you can't spot them easily. So it looked like this. So I had front, back, and like 300 around. It blew my mind. It was a 6 in total, okay? And obviously, I thought about not telling this to anyone, because that's one of the most embarrassing stories I kind of can imagine. But then, know your tools, okay? If you have a tool, you should know it, okay? You buy a car, just check it for a bit. Now we will move to IT, okay? Let's talk about Postgres. If you have Postgres, have you ever checked what Windows functions are, how they can help you, okay? Or columns with JSON content. Do you know that you can have them? Have you ever run explain on SQL queries? Or maybe do you know select for update, or maybe select for update skipped locked? Those are very small tools at your disposal, and most probably you are not aware of some of those. But let's speak more. Let's check more. Jira. Whoever used Jira? Everyone. So do you know, did you play with automation rules in Jira? So for example, you want to check whether all the decisions were in the past month were added to your ADL, which is architecture decision logs. So we can create automation rule that just add a task like this every 2 weeks, and you can close it if there is nothing to add, okay? What about shortcut like dot? You have quick actions. You press dot and then press type attach and you can attach a file. Or Control K for searching. And what about Rider or IntelliJ? Have you ever used column selection mode or structural search or debugger with conditional breakpoints? Maybe not. Maybe we don't know our tools that well, okay? In IT, in our real life. And another one. Let's talk about not JPA or Hibernate, but about entity framework. So have you ever used timestamp attribute for concurrency control? One person at least, so that's good, but it's very important. Okay, do you know about keyless entity type or view mappings? Or what about from EF Core 7, you have bulk update, delete, and update and delete, or EF Core second level cache interceptor. Do you know kind of those tools? Most of you probably work with the entity framework, but do you know those? So you should know your tools, okay? And now, one more thing about find a difference. So on the right side, you can see Moleskine book. Have you heard about this? Moleskine book, okay? And on the left is just the notebook I bought, in one of the discount shops for... What's the difference? Tell me. Obviously, it's hard to know, but the difference is this. Can you spot the dot of a difference? So one costs 19 euros and another one 1.9, okay? When you choose your tools and when you would like to use your tools in your team, you should think about the money, okay? How expensive the tool is. Many times you can make your choices much simpler if you think about how much it will cost you or your team in the long run. And by the way, the big difference is that on the right side is this Moleskine book, so at least on the left side, none moles had to be sacrificed in the process to get their skin off them. That's a crazy company name, isn't it? Okay. How does it lead to productivity? You need to figure it out how you think about the tools. There is no golden hammer, free lunch, silver bullet, however you would like to call it. You see this Swiss thing, okay? There is a screwdriver there, and there is like a small knife. You can use it to unscrew a screw, okay? Or you can use it to cut the slice of bread. Is it easy though? Not at all. I would prefer a normal screwdriver and a normal knife, okay? So there is no perfect one tool, so don't try bending your tool if it doesn't really fit the job, okay? So know the tools even if you haven't chosen them. And some people are really affected by this. Some people have their own put the emotions to the tools they really like and prefer. So whenever they move to another project and they have to work with other tools, they don't want to learn them or they are very negative about them. So we should know them at all. Those are, keep emotions away. Those are only some tools. It doesn't really matter. learn about many various tools and what they can do. So you are responsible for preparing your own toolbox. You should have many tools in there. And as a senior or tech lead or architect, you need to be able to know which tool is for the job. And choose the right tool for the job. Don't spend too much going into too deep. If you learn about everything about one tool, you may not have enough time to check other of them. Okay? And obviously, learn to use AI tools effectively. You should be the one to learn how to use AI tools, not AI should use you, like, with social media. Now, there will be 2 more stories. And this one will be about time, tech debt, upgrades, and money. How do you approach your technical debt in your projects? Do you approach it maybe like this? Like, maybe, it won't be so bad. Let's not take a look at this. It's heavy refactoring. We don't have time, so let's not do that, okay? Or maybe we can quit every 2 years before the technical debt in the current 2 years ago greenfield projects. Now, 2 years after brownfield project comes to you, okay? And we had this project on a very old version, so I didn't put the counterparts that we would have in .NET, okay? But that was like Elastic 5.7, MySQL, Python 7, and so on. That was a big application. We had microservices, but we had as well this monolith. And it was fine for some years, so upgrades were postponed. Everything worked, don't touch it, okay? But it got more challenging because we needed to keep it secure, okay? So to fix all of the issues, we needed to work harder, okay? And we've started to get more information about some vulnerability that we needed to patch, and we started to have and spend more and more time. And then we felt like our interest with our credit card debt is increasing. So we finally started to upgrading the stack, okay? But have you ever felt this, like spaghetti upgrades or this dependency hell? You try to upgrade one thing, you try to upgrade Spring, Spring requires upgrading Java, Java requires upgrading Hibernate, and you take one, it's like spaghetti, you just take one thing, the whole thing moves. You need to upgrade everything at the same time. So we kind of got this, we've got this issue that we needed to upgrade everything at the same. And it was complicated, scary, and risky. We are in the process of it. It's not that easy, okay? And on the top of it, it was fun, because AWS offers you to run very old versions of MySQL. MySQL 5.7 is still supported by AWS, but in addition for some additional money. So when they considered this outdated, they charged us per month 2,000 euros more. So we were really crucial. MySQL was the first thing we upgraded and we delivered because it was hitting us really hard. So we have to watch out how long are we waiting with our upgrades. However, we can go and overboard and we can go on the other end, and we can be too optimistic with our upgrades, and it can be painful. It's kind of hype-driven development. Oh, we have a version of a new library in version 00 point something alpha, okay? And let's bring it to the project. A few examples. At some point, I upgraded IntelliJ whenever they showed this button, because it's a nice button. I like to click it, so I pressed it. And each time I did it, I regretted it. Okay? Because something broke. So now I adopted the mindset that I'm waiting for others to do this, and like 3 months later, 4 months later, I do that, okay? When everyone is happy and all the dust settled, okay? Or another one, if you have heard the story about AngularJS 1, it's not the AngularJS that you see now, the version 1 that was wiped 2 years after almost, okay? If you adopted that, and we adopted this in this application with Cordova over there, the whole project was much harder to maintain because now we used AngularJS. It looked fine because it was backed by Google, and Google showed us a middle finger, and it wasn't that fun. Okay, or we tried to upgrade our Spring Boot version, which is like main like application, and we felt like some parts were not ready. So it was released like alpha. We were feeling like alpha testers, and some libraries didn't even exist back then, so we couldn't do that. But there is a sweet spot for upgrade window, okay? You need to find the sweet spot between lagging behind and being way too optimistic and too shorty. And you can put it, we can follow Martin's followers' advice. If it's painful, do it more often, so it's less painful. And I like to look at this. So we have a too late, too early, and sweet spot. So if you are too late, you will be hit with security vulnerabilities, with money on running all the servers, with bugs, with sluggishness, no access to features, maybe angry users. But if you upgrade too early, you can have security vulnerabilities, because that's a new thing. Maybe someone didn't put enough scrutiny to checking whether everything's fine. Angry users because some things are not working. Some money or maybe to-do not implemented features. So those both are not fun. But there is a sweet spot where we will have this plateau of the things. We will have some sluggishness, some bugs, some security vulnerabilities, but if we find our sweet spot, it will be kind of easy for us to upgrade with the minimal pain we possibly can feel. And this will be rather more often than not. So find your sweet spot. How does it lead to better productivity? Find your good spot for upgrades. If you want to be a tech lead, you need to speak up those issues. You need to figure it out how to prevent them and automate them. Both lagging behind and being too fast can be too costly. And you can set up notifications for user upgrades. You can put those into your calendar or Jira automation rules just to upgrade those projects. And obviously, if you do this more often, impact will be less painful, unless you are an alpha tester, okay? There will be the last story, and it will be on human hardware. You know, the thing about seniority is that we start to, when you become senior or tech lead, you need to adopt the contextual thinking. You need to be able to look at the different perspectives. So the most important thing is to take care of this brain over here. And the question to you, do you face those issues? Do you have some headaches after work? Or maybe feeling burned out? Or maybe having lack of energy, okay? Or feeling distance from family. So I have a friend that told me that he's a project manager in one of the teams, and he mentioned that his wife needed to book a spot in his calendar to be able to meet him. It was kind of, it suggests some things he should do better, okay, over there with his time management. Or maybe you have some stress-affective personal life, okay, and struggling with running personal errands. So over here we have a thinking about retiring. You see there is a 27-year-old Peter thinking about retiring after meeting way too many deadlines, okay? So what is the solution? There is like one solution we can apply. Not sure if you have seen this kind of solution. If you don't know, you can Google it. But that's not a real solution. Obviously, some can do that, some not. You need to take a good care of yourself at work, okay? Don't overwork. Do one thing at the same time, at one time. Multitasking is tiring. Context switching is very tiring. Take short breaks often, okay? Those are very simple things and hard to implement. Take day off of work. And in the long term, if you sit for more than 6 hours a day, do some sports for a healthier back and spine. So get at least 8 hours of sleep eat healthy food, do one thing at a time. And thank you, Marek. You are appointed as a Captain Obvious currently. But those are very simple yet very hard to implement things. Simple isn't easy, okay? Those are very simple. Everyone knows those rules, and it's hard to implement them. It took me years to implement them for my case. And you are the only one responsible for your own health. Not your employer, not your mom or dad, not your spouse, definitely not your kids. Only you. You need to take responsibility for your human hardware. And I like to put a tiny analogy, because now AI tools are in this hype, and currently we are thinking about agents. So I like to think about keeping this as an agent. I have many roles, so I have those small AI models, like I'm a parent, I'm a developer, I'm a tech lead, I can talk with business, and I have I'm an IT trainer, and so on. And I have many of those, and then I need to choose where I put my focus at every specific time. However, if I'm not well rested, my decision making, where should I focus, is blundered. It's like trying to make decisions where you don't have CPU or memory on computer hardware. So if you think about you are taking care of your AI agent and helping them making a little bit better decisions, you can make it work for yourself. What works for me? All the work tips, all of them. I do a 15 meditation before work. So if my age meditation for me is like getting CPU and the memory on my agent to the levels where, again, it makes smart decisions. I can figure it out where to put my thinking and where to put my focus during work. Especially, I'm in a position where I need to be able not to jump on a fun stuff, investigating technology issue, and then choose a boring, important meeting where we can do some really good for the project, okay? 3 times a week, strength training or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's not that, let's say, sometimes I get injuries, but oh well, it's fun. I have fun with family and friends, definitely some board games. I need to have fun trekking. I really need 8 hours of sleep. If I don't get 8 hours of sleep, everything is just falling apart for me. And eating healthy, more veggies. Recently, I stopped doing intermittent fasting. It's kind of embedded in my head, so it's kind of, this works for me, okay? But you are responsible for your own health, and then it will help you to be more productive. Well-rested and happy means productive, okay? And just to sum it up, all of those stories were kind of on this minefield of software development, and you need to lead people as a tech lead. You need to be able to technically apply your skills. You should know about many tools. You should be able to know which one to choose. You should take responsibility for the things. You should cut unwanted requirements and challenge assumptions, and being a glue between business and technology, and having impact those to providing better software, okay? There are some references. And by the way, the last one is about parent effectiveness training. This is the most psychology I learned about how to be a better person to work with was from the books about parenting, which is funny enough. If you want to learn more, you can contact me. There are some links for some talks. You can read and read books and articles from the previous slide. And if you want presentation slides or connect to LinkedIn, that they are there. As well, I will be happy if you will rate my talk. That's it. If you have any questions, I will stay here after the session. Thank you.